Is Forza Motorsport dead and gone forever? Unless you've been living under a rock, by now you've probably heard that something is going on over at Turn 10, the developers behind Forza Motorsport, and if the rumours are to be believed, the series has no future. For the sake of clarity, Turn 10 developed the Forza Motorsport titles and the Forza Tech engine, but not anything for Forza Horizon beyond that engine itself that the game is built on. Let's start at the beginning though, with the rather small piece of information that seems to be for sure. The only kind of official news is that Turn 10 has got rid of nearly half of their employees very recently. That's all we know for sure, and even that hasn't been confirmed by Microsoft or Turn 10 themselves. Everything else beyond that, though, is definitely a rumour or speculation at this point, however credible the sources are. The only other information out there has stemmed from what a single ex-employee said in a Facebook post, and this ex-employee left in 2016. They do still supposedly have connections to some people at Microsoft, so there probably is something to this, but it doesn't really officially confirm anything. They basically said that Motorsport series has been cancelled, and that Turn 10 would end up becoming purely a support studio for Playground Games, who make the Horizon games. Which, to be honest, at this point, would kind of make sense from Microsoft's point of view. This series kind of isn't doing anything for them anymore. All of this really means for sure, though, is that there won't be another Motorsport title, which was sort of always the plan anyway when this game released. This Forza Motorsport was supposed to be an evergreen game that just kept receiving updates and improvements, as opposed to an entirely new game being released every few years, because they're trying to go down a Game Pass route rather than a selling new titles route, and if you're going to do that, there's no point developing a new game. People are going to pay monthly for access to Motorsport, which is on Game Pass, rather than buying a new Motorsport every few years. That's why the latest game didn't even have a number, and was simply known as Forza Motorsport. So in theory then, there is a small chance that getting rid of all of these staff members might have been the plan all along, now that the game's been out for a while, so that they could reduce to a smaller team for the future smaller updates and improvements, now that they've made some of the more major changes, as less needs to be changed or added in each update by this point. Firing half the team though does seem rather excessive if that's all that's happening, so there probably is more going on here, which is where we really are into the speculation, and is probably why quite so much has been speculated around this situation, and why everybody seems to be assuming that it's gone. Before we get into the pure speculation though, if you are enjoying this video, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you to like and subscribe if you haven't already, so that you don't miss any future videos. Most people also seem to have taken the Motorsport has been cancelled comment to mean that this current game doesn't have a future and everything's going to end immediately, which in the long term we could well end up seeing this game disappear, but for now I don't think there's any reason to think that. The general consensus seems to be that the current title might stop receiving updates at the end of the year, but again, Microsoft, Xbox and Turn 10 haven't mentioned anything about this. Not that they would, they're not going to tell us about a game they're not making, and I suspect they would want to keep as quiet as possible if this game was going to stop getting updates, to kind of... they don't want to highlight the failure that this game has been, and, well, that this series has become. Anyway, the game not getting updates after this year is entirely possible. I could quite easily see that happening. It's just not confirmed. That is all rumours. Even the ex-Forza employee hasn't said anything about this game stopping receiving updates. All they've said is that Motorsport won't continue, which probably just means there won't be another game, which, like I say, was kind of the plan in the first place. So then, for argument's sake, let's say that worst case scenario, this game does stop receiving updates at the end of this year. That still doesn't change all that much. It's a shame, yes, it's sad that Motorsport won't be continuing, but it's not like this game instantly becomes unplayable or anything. At least, no more unplayable than it already is. It will still, presumably, be available in the Xbox Store for a while, until it's actually fully delisted, which remember only just happened for Forza Horizon 4, over 5 years after that game's release. If that's anything to go by, you'll still be able to buy this on the store until 2028 or so anyway. And even after that, the game is still playable until the servers shut down. Unfortunately, like is the way with a lot of modern games, it is an always online game, so once the servers do shut down, it will be entirely unplayable, unless they do some kind of offline patch, which seems somewhat unlikely, unless they're legally forced to with everything that's changing in the gaming industry. But they're not going to do that out of choice, especially now half the studio's gone. And that's probably a long way off anyway. Horizon 3 still has working servers, or at least it did last time I checked. It seems to have been a little bit iffy last couple of years, but that game's nearly a decade old. So I would think that even if Motorsport stops receiving updates at the end of this year, it would still be playable until 2033 at least. That is assuming that everything would be the same for Motorsport as it was for Horizon, because the Horizon series does still have a full team of developers and hasn't been in any way cancelled. If Turn 10 does become simply a support studio for Playground Games, or eventually ends up merging into it or completely shut down or anything like that, then I suppose they could end up shutting down the servers sooner. But I honestly can't really see that happening before the game is delisted. And why would they delist it sooner than 2028, which is my kind of prediction for it? Presumably it is still selling, and is therefore making Microsoft money, which in the end is what this is all about. And they've already gone through all the costs of making the game, so even if they stop releasing new content and proper updates, I can't see them stopping selling it, because they must still be selling copies. And they've done the development costs, they might as well carry on selling it for as long as they can. So all we know for certain is that about half of the Turn 10 team have now gone, or will soon be gone, but apart from that, nothing is 100% official or confirmed. I think the general consensus probably is along the right lines. It probably will end up being that this game will stop receiving updates fairly soon. So my best prediction, entirely not based on anything really, is that this game would stop receiving updates at the end of the year, it would be delisted at the end of 2028, and it would shut down completely somewhere into the 2030s, which is all a very, very long way off, so a lot could change between now and then, so let's see what happens. Either way, it has been a sad demise for this series after over 20 years. As ever though, do let me know your thoughts on the situation, but for now that is going to be all, so thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next one very soon.